Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Gio and YGO here, back with a deck profile. Today I have
Henry, and I'll be. Do you want me to tell you what I did first or what I played?
Henry here got first place at the regional flights at the YCS Vegas team event over the weekend, and he got first place. What did you play, Henry?
Played Labrynth.
Nice. All right. Before we get started, do you want to give any shout-outs?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'll just get all of it out of the way now. I have a huge shout out to my teammate here, Ramiro. We played in the main event together. We also traveled to Vegas together. We all live in Seattle. And he was a big reason, or like a big factor of how I was able to even make it to the event. I've been really busy with grad school, and he helped me pick up the last cards I needed for my deck. He, helped us figure travel arrangements out, and he's also a huge homie. I don't want to spoil it, but there's a pretty nice looking card in here that's a present from him. So he also helped me make sure I got my testing in before. I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to this event blind like I sometimes do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Ramiro's such a homie. He always hits up the boys with all the best techs and all the best advice.
He was also our anchor player during the 3v3, so I could go, never played against this deck before. What does it do? Where should I stop it?
So he was your knowledge check. So
exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
I also need to shout out our other member of the team. He's actually sitting right over here.
Hey, Charlie.
His name's Charlie.
Hey.
Charlie was how I didn't go in blind against Cash. He showed me that it's actually just an Unga Bunga deck with extra steps.
Yep.
If you're playing it right.
Right.
So like, for example, I knew because of Charlie that keeping in my D barriers going first against Cash actually wasn't a great move because they can just go wide with a bunch of guys and swing for game and remove all your stuff.
Exactly.
So I really, really appreciate Charlie helping me test against the deck, but also giving me like really clear explanations of how it works. I definitely would not have done as well as I did if I hadn't had his help, because 3 of the 4 in my regional flight were Cash variants.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Finally, I have a shout out for another guy in our Yu-Gi-Oh club. By the way, I'm part of the UW's Dueling Dogs Yu-Gi-Oh club.
Yes, sir.
We all are here.
Yes, sir. Got the sleeves right there.
Yep. I have a shout out to Max. He is the fellow lab player that I was labbing it with. And he helped me think through a lot of tech choices and meta calls that we were making together. We didn't wind up with like exactly the same philosophies on the deck, but it really helped having another person playing the deck to bounce ideas off of.
For sure, yeah. And before we get started, what was your guys' team name?
Beatron 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Beatron 2 Electric Boogaloo. That's a sick name. All right. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and get started then.
All right, so...
got a nice mat too. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
As I put cards down, I'll try to explain. I think you can always look up what the card does, or you already know. I'm just going to explain sort of the philosophy behind it, and... Also, it's really important to mention, this is a rough draft. I'm still somewhat new to the deck. I'm not new to normal trap decks. I played Paleo Frogs for a long time, so a lot of my choices were based off of that knowledge, but I'm still definitely fine-tuning the deck, and I'll let you know like my thoughts after its performance.
Sweet, sounds good.
So first we've got 3 Ariana.
Yep.
She is the normal summon. It always feels amazing to have her in your hand. When you plop her down on the field and you get that search off, you feel like you're winning. Even if you don't get the search off, as long as you have some other way to engine, it doesn't feel so bad because she pluses on your opponent's turn when you get the Labrynth trigger. For the rest of this video, Labrynth trigger is the shorthand for when your normal trap removes a monster from the field by card effect. Lots of different Labrynth cards have a trigger effect. So hers is to draw a card and then either special summon from your hand or to set a spell trap from your hand, which can be really nice if you have a Lovely stuck in your hand, because there's no other way to get her out, really.
Yeah.
That and Big Welcome. But it feels gross to Big Welcome out of your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Goated card. I know other people are playing her at 2 at 1. I don't necessarily agree with that. You really want to see her in your opening.
Fair enough.
Next, we played Triple Valady.
Oh, yeah.
She opens up into all of your advantage and engine. She's your best monster. I think you definitely want to play her at 3.
For sure.
The one Starlight, Ramiro helped hook me up with.
Yep.
Back before she spiked, so thank you, Ramiro.
Yeah.
And I'll throw on the other big one here. The one Collector's Rare Lovely, and that was Ramiro's present to me for winning the regional flight.
That's a beautiful card.
Yeah. So Lady is great to draw and has those protection effects, which makes her a lot stickier. But the way that you close out games and really solidify them is with Lovely. So Lovely, you play her at 1 because she sucks to draw, but sometimes you really wish you had her at more because if she gets banished, it just feels bad.
Yeah.
But the important thing about Lovely is she can keep resetting every single turn. Cards like D-Barrier, which in the past there was sometimes a conflict of playing in normal trap decks because they could hold your opponent off for a turn, but then the next turn, if you didn't have a way to close it out or remove their resources, they would just push the next turn. So specifically with normal trap floodgates, this deck has a huge advantage. So for example, different dimension ground or D-Barrier, because it can keep resetting them and they aren't vulnerable to removal because they're lingering effects. That's what makes this deck uniquely well positioned as a control deck to take advantage of normal trap floodgates.
Yeah.
Also, Lovely is a way for you to leverage drawing like 2 or 3 cards that are engine, because the 1 card gets out Lady usually, and she keeps your grind game and advantage going. But the second one, especially if it's if you already have a way to Lady and then you have Big Welcome, you can summon Lovely, bounce Lady, and then you trigger her effect to pop something. So she is the reason that your engine can also be interruption on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
The one thing to be careful about, though, is trotting her out too early, because she has no protection effects, and if she gets banished by Fenrir, for example, it really hurts your long-term game plan. So it's sort of a, like, you do it if you have to. It's not your first play, though.
Gotcha.
I was playing the 1 Ku Clock.
Okay.
Some people aren't playing this. I think you should test it before you decide not to play it, because it seems gimmicky. But because of the fact that Lady, and also if you're playing Lord of the Heavenly Prison, they set you a trap, but you can't use it the turn it's set. When you already have access to engine, this is an extra interruption. So just drawing it in your hand is usually great unless you have no other access to engine, which doesn't really happen. You play a lot of ways to engine. It's also really important in certain matchups where you just really need that 1 normal trap card. D-Barrier is the prime example. You're just not always going to open it, and searching out for Lady is great, but you'd have to wait a turn, and then your opponent just does their whole combo, right? So if you really need to force through a normal trap, you're gonna need to search this guy, use him, and then you can play it. One nuance here is if you draw Lady plus Ku Clock, you're allowed to activate Ku Clock whenever, and then you've activated a Labrynth monster, so you can drop Lady, and then you can activate the normal trap because you control a Labrynth monster. So that's a way where it might seem like you would be a brick because you didn't also open Ariana, but it actually is a really great combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Oh, I played the 2 Lord. Lord, I think you need to test with more. If you don't open a grip of a lot of interruptions, drawing Lord feels bad, but it's also really great as solidifying your game after your opponent's first turn and pushing for game, which this deck can do, but you need to plan for. It doesn't happen supernaturally.
Gotcha.
So I think it makes sense. It's especially nice to have if your opponent has the Harpy's Feather Storm, things like that.
Right, yeah.
Okay, moving on. I played 2 Lava Golem as my hard going second card. I'm actually planning on cutting this. It never really came up game 1, and I think Evenly's probably better.
Okay.
But it came down to a decision between the 2. I was really worried about Cash locking all my spell trap zones, so this is the one I went with. But I think because you really can't overstate how much the normal summon off of Ariana puts you ahead. Opening both of these in your opening hand just feels so terrible. And I think it's much better to play evenly, even though it won't break a board that is like full Cash combo. But honestly, if they get that, they won the die roll, they opened full combo, which is not guaranteed. I had 2 or 3 Cash players just hard brick on me at the YCS. So it's not the most consistent thing in the world.
Right.
And then they have to decide to go for all your spell traps. I think it's better just to play to absolutely win going first, and I'm not even sure about 3 evenly in the main, but I think that's better than lava.
Right.
Okay, the last monster was 3 Ash Blossom.
Nice.
It's an open format. We weren't really sure what to expect. Ash Blossom always works, and I've heard it's the FTK against
The
random.
FTK. The FTK.
The FTK. Shout out to John Logan.
I don't think we need to explain much more.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to Leo too.
Hello.
The only spells I played were 3 Prosby and 1 of the field spell.
Okay.
The field spell is never your first or second search, but once you've waited a bit into the game, it can really help solidify the game in your favor. Also, if you open both Welcomes and Ariana, sometimes adding those extra pop effects might be better because you're already going to get to Lovely and Lady off of the traps. So it's just another way that you're opening a bunch of engine you can turn back into interruptions.
Yeah.
And summoning those big monsters back from the graveyard for pushes for game is helpful.
Yeah. How do you feel about not running duality for like digging deeper, for example?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I think duality feels great when you open it turn 1. After that, you should be trying to win probably turn 3, or if you're on the back foot, turn 5. So it's not a great top deck because you need to be pushing for damage.
Right.
And it's not like it's good. It's kind of like a slightly better upstart, except it's a hard once per turn. So
right.
In that ways, it's worse. I think it makes sense if you're playing more of a Floodgate variant. Spoiler alert, you're not going to see Floodgates in my main deck, except for D-Barrier.
Right.
You're not going to see continuous trap Floodgates. I think there's a place for them in the deck. My playstyle is much more to trade the opponent down with normal traps, which are generating a lot of advantage to the Labrynth monsters, and then push for game quickly.
Yeah. Pretty solid game plan, so.
Yeah, like as long as you're seeing some normal traps and some engine, it's good. You don't really need to dig for specific ones in this deck as much as you do need to dig for Floodgates in the continuous trap Floodgate variant.
Right.
You play 3 of each. Welcome.
Yep.
They're really, really good. It's great to open them. Even if you already open engine, opening more engine is good because it can represent an interruption through Lovely. It can represent cheeky things where you activate Lady turn 1 with Coup Clock.
Yep.
It's just always good. There might be some nuances we talk about for them, but you should be playing all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe if you're playing Duality, there's an argument to only play 2 Welcome, because you can dig for them, but I think you're trying to dig for other stuff with Duality, not engine.
Yeah.
3 Compulse, it's just bread and butter in the deck.
Yep.
It's also really nice because it removes things to a non-public zone, so floating effects won't happen.
Yep.
Like Mirror Jade.
Yep.
And then also sort of in a similar vein, I played 2 Phoenix Wing Wind Blast.
Ooh.
So it was a choice between Wind Blast and Tears of the Overroot. I opted for Wing Blast because I felt it would be better into cash. And being pretty familiar with normal trap decks, you can't always guarantee that you're going to remove something you give them on the following turn. It can feel like it's guaranteed, but when you're in a super simplified game state where you've traded them down favorably, but you're both traded down, you can't rely that you're going to remove that Fenrir you set or remove that whatever their E-Tele is called, the normal spell that you set.
Yeah.
And then that's a problem for you next turn, right?
Right.
So I really just prefer things that deal with the problem and it's done.
Right.
The other thing about Wing Blast is it does require that discard. That's actually, it can be a benefit. It didn't come up when I was playing at the YCS, but Coup Clock can trigger to add back when you discard a card to activate a spell card. Or activate a normal trap.
Oh.
So it's something that you can lady for if you know you're going to, if you already have Coup Clock in circulation.
Right.
And then again, it just represents an extra interruption.
Yeah.
Because you can search for what you need off of Lady during your opponent's turn and activate it right away.
Yeah, it just seems like the advantage that you get off of Clue Clock once it gets in rotation uninterrupted is just like really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Nice.
And specifically why you need to consider either Overroot or Phoenix Wing Wind Blast is you need something that interacts with spell traps.
Right.
Labrynth cards, like Compulse is amazing, but it's only for monsters. The Labrynth traps can pop with Labrynth, but that's not what you're searching for right away.
Yeah.
It's bread and butter.
Bread and butter.
All right. So we did play. So for the last card that can trigger Labrynth effects.
Yeah.
One Ice Dragon's Prison.
Ooh, nice.
I wasn't playing it more because it felt iffy into certain matchups. Like, you don't actually. I learned this through day one, but you don't actually want to spend resources removing cash cards early. Fenrir can't bite into your board until they enter the battle phase because Lady is protected from banish effects, and you don't need to use monster effects to interrupt your opponent. So if you're playing into cash carefully, they're never going to actually have active removal until they enter the battle phase or until they overlay 3 for a Rise Heart.
Right.
So the reason I chose not to play more Ice Dragon's Prison was because Birth can grab from Banish too, so it's not as hard of a removal.
Yeah.
And Brandy can shuffle away and stuff. But I think it might be a 2 of. The real thing that was coming up with this a lot was helping push for game. Because
the steal, yeah.
The steal.
Yep.
Because you sometimes you need the big Welcome's Graveyard effect to remove obstacles to go for game, so you can't also set it for the summon, and sometimes you don't have Welcome in circulation, so setting this off of Lady is really nice because if you need it on your turn for the extra removal, it can do that after your opponent's comboed a bunch, but also if you don't need it for the extra removal, you can use it to get to 8,000.
Yeah,
because you usually have Leveling Lady if you're going for game. That's 59. You need
just a little more. Yep. That makes sense.
I closed out a lot of games with this.
Ooh.
I only played 2 D-Barrier. I think you should probably be playing it at 3. Because it does take a good amount of engine to do the Coup Clock force it through.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed if you only open like 1 or 2 pieces of engine. The only reason I wasn't playing it at 3 is because it's not amazing into cash. It's really mostly for branded. And then other weird rogue crap. But it does, slow down cash. It means that they can't threaten your board by putting 3 guys on the field. It means they have to threaten your board with the battle phase.
Right.
So it has its application. It just doesn't automatically win the game like it does against
branded.
decks like branded.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think you should play 3. It's fine into cash.
It's a good card.
It's great into branded.
Yeah. It's the FDK against branded.
3 Imperm.
Yep.
So it feels like a kind of a weaker trap card. And using it as a hand trap or board breaker, it's nice, but again, it's kind of weak. But one thing I will say is against cash in particular, sometimes you want to let them attempt to activate the effect and negate it rather than removing the monster before it can activate the effect, because they have so many other ways to bring that monster back into rotation.
Right.
So like I was getting punished for removing Unicorn just to have them E-Telly it back out later. Not actually E-Telly, but their version of E-Telly.
Yeah.
Or to birth it back out, to just normal summon it off of birth.
Yeah.
They have so many ways to bring back a monster that you want them to use the hard once per turn and then stop it. And also, removing a monster against cash is not always a great idea if they only control 1.
Yeah. They have so many ways of just summoning another one. Exactly. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Also, just speaking more to the theme of cash sometimes crumpling to their own deck, I've impermed Unicorn, and then they have passed. So.
Yes, it is not like the immensely perfect, consistent deck that people make it out to be sometimes.
Yeah.
So it does brick on itself. So,
so I think Imperm, it's really nice. Oh, also, it's worth mentioning if you use it on your turn or your opponent's turn, you've activated normal trap card that turn, so you can drop Lady out.
Yep, Lady is live. That's super broken. So.
2 Waybridge.
Ooh, yeah.
So it was between this and Dharma Karma Cannon, but for the same reason that I wasn't playing Overroot, where it doesn't actually remove the threat, this is better because it simplifies the game state, removes the threat, and then the 1 card left over, you have lots of targeted monster removal, right? So one thing I learned playing against Charlie with cash is, I mentioned this earlier, but their early plays don't threaten you and also are really redundant. But the amount of summons they can get off is not redundant. They kind of have a lot of hard ones per turns, and they can't extend much past that. So if you let them go wide, 3 is the magic number, because they can overlay into a Rise Heart and then start ripping your stuff.
Right.
But if you let them go wide to 3, and you control Lady, flip Waybridge on them. They're back down to 1. In my regional flight, I had 2 Waybridge set. It absolutely was not a brick. They went wide to 3, I activated it, they went down to 1. They went wide to 3, I activated it, they went down to 1, and they passed their turn. It's a good card. It's a good card.
For sure, just punishes overextending.
It just punishes overextending.
Yeah, really good. And I know cash players get greedy because I was playing cash over the weekend. I was always greedy. So.
Finally, if you've been wondering why I was playing a billion 2-ofs, it's because I'm playing Trap Trick.
Yep.
As the last 2 cards.
Yep.
Trap Trick is great. One of the reasons I opted for playing it was because I was worried about not opening Engine. That didn't wind up being too much of a problem, but one of the nice things about this deck, and I'll just talk a little bit more about what I'm planning on testing and changing, because this was a rough draft.
Yeah.
One of the nice things about this deck is that you can be really flexible about the order in which you do things. You can do Engine early. You can do Engine in the end phase, and Trap Trick can get you into Engine if you need it, and Engine is fine to happen in the end phase. It can also get you into your last power interruption.
Right.
So like Trap Trick into Waybridge is great. A card I wasn't playing, but I probably will be playing in the future, is Dogmatic Punishment.
Yeah.
Trap Trick into Punishment is great as your last interruption.
Yep.
Both of those are usually 2-for-1s, right? What you don't really want to be trap tricking for is cards like D-Barrier that need to happen at the start of your interruptions to be effective.
Yeah.
So that's why I think you should be playing it in 3, because searching it off of Lady and forcing it through immediately, you need to have a lot of Engine to do that.
Right.
And then searching out for Trap Trick isn't. It sounds like it works, but like it's a play you might be forced to make against Branded, but I don't think that's what you should be deck building for.
Right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
How many cards in the main deck?
40.
40. Clean 40.
Clean 40.
Gotta love it.
I think if you're playing Duality, you can play around like with 42 around there, but I think a clean 40 is the way to do it.
Yeah. Just want to see your good cards more consistently, right?
Yeah.
So, makes sense.
Okay, let's do the side deck next.
Yeah.
So for the side, I had 3 more board breakers, the 3rd lava, and 2 sphere modes.
Okay.
Because I'm considering cutting the lavas in the main, I think I might just play this 3 sphere mode, because I lost a lot of games when I sided these in because I drew 2 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Or I drew them, but I needed to get to Engine through my normal summon. So I think your going second game plan should be draw 4 of your main deck, just good stuff, trap cards / Engine, and 1 thing to clear as much as possible. Sphere mode is going to do that job better than Lava Golem.
Makes sense, yeah.
I feel much more comfortable trading my normal summon for a +2 than for a +1.
Yeah.
Evenly. So I think Evenly is gonna find its way into the main, but it really helps with everything that's not cash. It's still good against cash. It just won't remove the lock if they full locked you.
Yeah.
But honestly, sometimes they will. They won't go for the full lock. They'll just hard make a Rise Heart because they're playing around Sphere mode. I think Evenly is really great in the deck. You don't care about your battle phase turn 1. You're establishing a lot of your stuff. You're removing through traps. You're not really removing through your battle phase turn 1. So it doesn't feel like it has a downside. Plus, you've activated a normal trap card, so you can drop Lady out of your hand if you need to.
Nice.
It's a good card.
Yeah.
It's your favorite board breaker as long as you're not playing into a deck that can negate it easily.
Yeah, I think like cards like Evenly and like Imperm, because it's like a normal trap that lets your Lady be live. That makes them like have much higher value in this deck. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, especially if in games 2 and 3 when you're playing around the triple tax, dropping Lady in your end phase is much better than dropping her at the beginning of your opponent's turn.
For sure. Yeah.
So then now we're looking at the hard going first cards. Again, I'm not playing a huge amount of going second cards because if you open too much of them, you brick, and then even though you cleared the immediate threat, you're gonna lose to your opponent because their engine still works.
Right.
Triple Solemn Judgment. and then triple anti-spell fragrance. And if I had room for it, inciting, 1 heavy storm duster.
Yep.
I'll just chuck this third copy of D-Barrier too.
Nice.
So this is just, it sucks when you open it going second. It's amazing when you're going first.
Right.
This, I think, is the best continuous trap floodgate to play when you know you're going first.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Because not only does it hit engine of both cash and branded and a bunch of other random stuff like punk, it is counter side, right?
Yeah.
Because now you don't have to worry about playing into the triple tax. You don't have to worry about them just drawing the Harpy's Feather Storm off the top, or Harpy's Feather Duster off the top.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about lightning storms. The only thing you have to worry about is evenly, and at least if they had evenly, they waste their battle phase, so they're not going to kill you that turn.
Right.
Heavy Storm Duster, it's a little cheeky. The idea is you set into it off of Lady if you have anti-spell, and then you pop all of their
Set spells.
all their set engine spells. I will say it feels good specifically into cash because you can chain it to Birth, you can chain it to their field spell. So it has applications even if you didn't see the anti-spell fragrance off the top.
Right.
That's just a good card. The one thing to be careful of is if you're going into time or if you're trying to push for game, don't activate it on your turn because it will take your battle phase.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, I forgot to do one more shout out.
Yeah.
I need to shout out. A good friend of ours and fellow teammate or fellow club member Josh.
Yeah.
He is our resident chain beat player. And
Trap man.
he's the guy who has on multiple occasions read through every trap card in the game.
Yep.
And he was the person I turned to when I said, "What's the one normal trap card that's the best burn card for in time?" And he said Secret Barrel.
Oh boy.
It's the thing.
So you might think, it's a given. It's not going to come up. Well, you're not going to be thinking that when you have 3 minutes left to go and you're siding for game 3. Whether you're going first or second, this is another reason to play Coup Clock.
Yep.
It's your opponent's draw phase. You've got engine.
Yep.
You activate some engine, get the lady out. You activate some other engine, or maybe you already did this. Summon Ariana, search that Coup Clock,
Yep.
activate some random trap card, or because you have lady out, the first welcome that you activate is going to trigger her. Set Secret Barrel. You're off to the races.
Yep.
If they don't have a way to burn you in their draw phase, you win, right? Or it could be in your draw phase. But lady's big; she can block some attacks.
Yeah.
I really think you do need a tool for winning in time because you're playing a trap deck. Chances are your games are going to run long.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy a one of to search off of lady. You can make it happen. And no. Free games are free games.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh players.
It did come up, by the way.
It
Actually did come up. Yeah.
We won our first match of the 3v3.
Yeah, off of Secret Barrel. Yeah,
Off of Secret Barrel.
Yeah, the entire 3v3 match. that poor Drytron player never saw it coming.
That is actually awesome.
So for the extra,
Yep.
this did not come up once during both days of the YCS, but the theory. Okay, well, first I'll show you the cards that actually make sense in the deck.
Yep.
A ding into Zeus. Usually Clash players remove the Zeus, but it's whatever. It's just an option if you're in a weird game state where it's actually better to have this instead of 2 ladies or a lady and a lovely.
Makes sense.
Usually not going to be the case.
Yeah.
I played 3 Lingaribo because Ramiro told me that I needed to out Ibly, and my extra deck space is super free, so I was like, the third one might come up, who knows? And then the rest of this is Ramiro's Sword Soul extra deck. So the theory behind this is, you don't need to know the specifics. It's a Sword Soul extra deck. The theory behind this is that if Cash is playing against you game 1 and they don't know what you're playing, they peek into your extra deck and they're like, oh, they're playing a Sword Soul deck. That can play without spell traps. I'm going to lock their monster zones first. It didn't really come up. I think if you're not playing punishment, you might as well, because you never go into the extra deck in this deck.
Did you get any weird looks from opponents who were looking at your extra deck and they see like a Sword Soul with 2
The funny
dings?
thing is, after they knew what I was playing, they would go for my extra and go like, "You're gonna get a crack out of this," and indeed they did. But as far as ways to use your extra deck, it's mostly fuel for prosperity.
Yeah.
and I think it should be punishment targets. So that's what I'm going to be doing with it moving on from here. I'm probably just going to copy Ryan Yu's extra deck verbatim and test that out and then see if I want to adjust anything.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving forward, do you think that this is going to be the deck that you're probably going to be sticking with for the foreseeable future?
Oh yeah, for sure. The really great thing about it is that it's so flexible. Like most of the main deck that I showed you was just bread and butter normal trap cards that are good into the format, right?
Right.
So as new main sets drop, weird random normal traps come out, the deck gets better.
Exactly.
And even though people will be prepared for Labrynth, they won't necessarily be prepared for the specific way you open. Like there's no set combo that they know to play around. So I think you just you pick your interruptions carefully. One thing you should definitely know about in competitive play for Labrynth is you should always be really careful about how you're passing priority.
Ooh, yeah.
Because on your opponent's turn, as soon as they get that third body, you go, do you have any response to that summon? You have to say that first, because if you go, I have a response to the summon, they might go, oh, well, actually, I have one first, because they have priority.
Right.
So you make them say, I'm passing priority before you start doing stuff. And you do that after each of your chains resolves that you want to go through. You don't want to pass open game state to them, but you also don't want to let them know what you're doing before they pass priority back to you.
Right.
So you got to be really careful about saying, okay, do you have any response to that chain resolution? No? Okay, then I would like to do this, right?
Yep.
That's just a really easy way for you to make sure that you're maintaining any advantage of knowledge about what cards you have set and just not getting sharked.
Yeah.
Also, do everything in the end phase if you can.
Yep.
As long as you don't need the interruption to survive the turn or to keep them off of their combo, you should be saving it for the end phase, particularly monster effects, just because triple tactics thrust into Harpy's feather duster is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. Well, thanks again for the deck profile. It was super insightful.
Oh wait, before we log off, what were your matchups?
Yeah. So the important one to talk about is the regional flight because that's what I won.
Yeah.
It was Cash, Labrynth Mirror, and then Punk Cash.
Punk Cash.
The Punk Cash was interesting. He dropped that level 11 synchro that's unaffected when your life points are lower.
Second end. Yeah.
But the thing is, when your life points are lower, you are affected by that is time of the round. So
yeah.
Cash feels very winnable. The thing about a normal trap deck is you need to know if you're playing against a deck where you keep them off getting a toehold, or if you let them wade in some and then stop them before they go into their big plays, right? So against Cash, I was really well prepared because I tested against Charlie, and I knew you can let them wade in deep. You just need to be careful once they start getting 3 monsters on the field. So Cash felt very winnable. Waybridge was doing a lot of work against Cash.
Right.
Just other bread and butter removal stuff. Punk Cash, I wasn't as well prepared for, but it just he was playing with himself a lot and then made some things. I don't know. It seemed like Cash, but diluted with some weird combo stuff. So people probably know more about it. They're going to tell me, this is how it works.
Yeah.
And then Labrynth Mirror, I just knew my cards better and have more experience with normal trap decks.
Makes sense, yeah.
I will... This is fun. This is something people can do in the comments section. There was 2 dice I was playing for the event, and people have to guess what they're a reference to. The hint is that I played Paleo Frogs and I love normal traps. So if you can tell me what these 2 dice are a reference to, kudos to you.
All right. Well, we'll see what everybody thinks. If you can drop it down in the comments, what you think these dice are referencing to. I'm pretty sure Henry will be checking in every once in a while to see how close some people are. But
then we will know if you are a person of culture or not.
A person of culture. All right. Well, thanks again, Henry, for the deck profile, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Yeah, of course.